Here in 2023, the word trend seems to be tossed around a lot more than it should. And when it comes to today's automotive trends, well, you can pretty much pick your poison anywhere you look. But one that seems to be creeping up more fervently than ever is the idea of manufacturers taking what are normally mild-mannered three-row family crossovers and SUVs and turning them into vehicles that would be better suited for wild adventures in the wilderness. If you're kind of curious what I'm talking about, then stick around, because today, that is my case in point. The 2023 Ford Explorer Timberline. Now, before this video gets started, I just have to give a massive thank you and shout out to the amazing team here at Legacy Ford in Rosenberg, Texas. I was personally invited by some of their team members to come down here to their dealership and actually get to film some of their inventory and then share those experiences with you guys. So as a thank you to them, and also as a service to my subscribers and viewers, if you guys are interested not only in the vehicle that I'm filming today, but anything else in Ford's arsenal, and you're looking for a solid dealership to be able to put you in your next new vehicle, check out the links I provided in the description box below, and be sure to tell the folks here that you saw it on the driveway. But anyways, enough chit chat, let's get to driving. You know, it's absolutely amazing what 30 years can do to a vehicle, but that's what has happened here with this brand new 2023 Ford Explorer Timberline. You know, I've seen Explorers of all different generations being outfitted with all kinds of off-road goodies, from external lights to huge lift kits, big knobbly tires. I mean, you name it, I've pretty much seen it. But this now makes the first time that pretty much anyone has ever seen an off-road focused Explorer coming straight out of the factory. And I gotta say, Ford's efforts seem to have paid off. The Timberline sits an inch higher than a normal Explorer would right off the bat. It also has solid steel skid plates all the way along its floor. And to give you a little bit of an extra boot when you're off in the middle of nowhere, you have a 358 ratio Torsen limited slip rear axle hidden away in the back. And this is all paired with normally Ford's Advanced Track four-wheel drive system, which is no different in the example I have here. But under the skin here, it's actually the same powertrain that you would find in an EcoBoost Mustang. Yep, this almost 2.25 ton Explorer is powered by a 4-cylinder turbo engine. And it really doesn't sound like a lot, but when you read the numbers, might change your tune a little bit. Let's not forget that the EcoBoost Mustang's powertrain is certainly known for still having some get up and go. And in this, it's no different. 300 horsepower and 310 foot-pounds of torque. You got 10 gears in the transmission, which is kind of nice, and you would think having so many gears in its arsenal that it would be a little bit friendlier on your wallet when it comes to fueling up on, say, a long road trip. Unfortunately though, it's not. The Explorer Timberline four-wheel drive specifically only averages 19 miles to the gallon in the city and 21 miles per gallon on the highway. So you're definitely going to be stopping a lot more often should you decide to take the kids across the country to Wally World. So with me having driven every single generation of Explorer to date, how does this one feel, this Timberline version specifically? Well, to be honest, it's different. I will say that. It doesn't feel as plush or luxurious as something like a Limited or a Platinum, and you know, that's kind of to be expected. But when you throw in big chunky off-road tires and again all the off-road goodies that have been hidden away underneath, well, it does make a little bit more of an interesting difference. And to begin with, the road noise is not bad in here. It's very well insulated. I'm extremely comfortable in these newfound seats here. I mean, I feel like I'm sinking into them to begin with. I've got perfect support for every area of my body, but at the same time, the suspension feels a little bit more on the stiffer side. It feels like it's kind of bouncing and hopping around a little bit more. But then again, the chassis has been built so that it's more capable, so that it can actually handle the rougher things that nature has to throw its way. So In terms of on-road performance, would I say it's the best one? Probably not. In terms of off-road, well, that's to be determined, because unfortunately, I'm in the wilds of Southwest Houston, and there are no dirt mountains or berms or big rock trails to speak of that I can go throw this thing around on. Unfortunately, though, there is still one thing that I must address. It's the price tag. Because even with all the cool goodies and stuff that Ford has put into this thing, this particular example I'm sitting in is over $54,000. And that is still a huge chunk of money, especially when you consider that for about the same price, if not a little over, a little under, you can buy vehicles from their competition that are around the same size, but they also have a lot more equipment. So whether or not you want to spend this kind of money on an Explorer, or you want to go great guns and get the biggest and baddest thing you could possibly get, that's up to you. But I will tell you one thing that kind of swayed me just a little bit is actually the way Ford has designed this thing. Now, while its performance may not be the most unique thing about this truck in any sense of the word, what is the Timberline's greatest asset, however, is the way Ford has balanced the attributes of aggression while also being sleek yet modern. If you look at this thing from a distance, it almost looks like any other Ford Explorer, especially in a more normal color like the star white tri-coat that we have here. But you get a little bit closer and you start to notice just how the details all come together in one perfectly balanced package. On the modern side, full LED headlights, you've got your LED turn signals, daytime running lights, LED high and low beams, you've got the LED fog lights down here as well. You've even got a switch inside that allows you to access things like the auxiliary lighting that you can have installed here in the middle of the grille. Even more modern, you get a standard 360 camera on the Timberline, but you look at this lower face, and this is possibly my favorite angle of it here. I love the orange accents around the middle of the grille with the orange tow hooks. I love the Timberline badge that they put just offset away from the license plate. But again, I mean, if you look at it from a distance, it looks more normal, right? But get up close and really start admiring a lot of the stuff that Ford has put into this thing, and it all starts to make a lot more sense. And at a fraction under 200 inches long, this thing is certainly not winning any size competitions in terms of today's mid-size crossovers and SUVs. However, again, look a little bit closer at the Timberline and things start to become a little more apparent. As I was saying on the drive, this thing has a little under an inch more ground clearance compared to a standard Ford Explorer. On top of that, there is no getting away from one of its greatest showpieces, which is right here. The standard set of 18-inch high gloss black aluminum alloy wheels. You can only get these on the Timberline, and look at the meat they are wrapped in. You've got some Bridgestone dueler tires, 265/65 series in all four corners, and I gotta say, this is where I feel a lot of this truck's aggression lies. And also taking into account that this thing is not a limited, a platinum, or even something crazy like a King Ranch, I have to say the equipment that you get just looking in this sort of area is actually quite apt for the price. Things like the blacked out mirror caps and the blacked out A-pillars, it's a nice aesthetic touch, but the mirrors are also power folding. Now, they are not power folding when you use the intelligent keyless access and lock the vehicle. However, there is a switch inside here on the driver's door that allows you to manually power fold them in or out. You also get blind spot monitoring, rear cross traffic alert, already included in the price. This one, for an extra option, does have the twin panel Vista roof up on top as well, so always a nice thing to have. And the other nice thing about the roof is that it's not so wide. I mean, yes, it's a twin panel sunroof, but there's a lot more of the body structure here, so that is something to take into concern when you're looking at the safer aspect. And going back to the intelligent access, look at the size of the key fob here. This thing is huge, but it has all the functions you want: lock, unlock, you have the power tailgate, you have the panic button, you have the releasable key blade that comes out of the bottom, and as typical for a lot of higher end Fords, you also have a factory remote start. But like most Fords of today's generation, you also get the touchpads on the door, so you can unlock or lock the vehicle just as long as you have the key on you. And if you come over here, hidden seamlessly into the B pillar is your keypad keyless access. Now that of course comes with a unique 5-digit code that means you can unlock or lock the vehicle without even having the key on you. And while the Timberline is much more akin to showing off its face with its orange fanged nose, there's no denying that the rear of this thing, well, it's a little more on the plain Jane side. There's really nothing back here to say I am the most aggressive and off-road ready version of the Explorer that has ever existed. The only thing I can think of is this giant Timberline badge down here in the corner. And of course it says 4-wheel drive, but you can get that badge on just about anything. But a lot of what I'm seeing are very soft cornered angles, things like the taillights right here, full LED everything. You also have the rear parking aid on this one as part of that Timberline technology package, as part of this car's options list. And also optional is a Class 4 tow hitch. This thing, in its current configuration with 4-wheel drive and the EcoBoost 4-cylinder up front, is capable of towing a max trailer weight of 5,300 pounds. Definitely not a bad number, considering that, again, it's a 4-cylinder turbo, 2.25-ton crossover. Now, with the Timberline trim specifically being slightly more towards the lower end of things like hands-free access are not available, or at least not part of the options list on this one. However, you do still get a power tailgate as standard. Always nice to have. It has its own memory functions as well as it rises slowly up. And once you look in the back, which in this case is being overtaken by this large package that contains the 3rd row seat all-weather mats in this particular car, you're looking at around 18 cubic feet of cargo volume behind the 3rd row seats. That's about as much as you get in the rear of a mid-size sedan. If you want to fold down the standard power folding 3rd row seats, you got the little buttons over here on the side. They fold away nice and easy, and once they do, that's around 48 cubic feet of usable cargo volume. But let's say you're still not satisfied. You need the maximum amount of room you can get. Fold down the standard captain's chairs in this one, and you're suddenly looking at around 88 cubic feet of cargo volume, which isn't exactly a class leader, but nor is it the lowest one on the food chain either. Now, if what we've seen so far is anything to go by, stepping on board the Explorer Timberline should mean that you're getting into a cabin that is a little bit more on the bare bones side, but it has its unique features that sort of serve their own purposes. And you'd be exactly right. This is far from the most lavishly appointed Explorer that you'll ever set foot in. Again, just to remind you, if you want something like that, get a King Ranch, a Limited, a Platinum, something that will make you happier with all the technology and all the crazy stuff you could want. But in the Timberline, everything is built to be an all-weather vehicle. And I don't just mean in the fact that I've got obviously WeatherTech floor mats down below. I've also got these Active X seats. Again, the first major unique thing about them, because they're not like typical leather, they're not like typical cloth. They are built to take the abuse. And the color of these is gorgeous. They're like a deep foresty green. I believe it's called deep cypress, and it mixes perfectly with the black and silver accents that we've got going on pretty much everywhere else. It's on the doors, it's on the seats, it's on the center console. It really accents everything beautifully, and when the sunlight hits it, it's just gorgeous. But you look directly in front of you, the steering wheel kind of has the same treatment. Black leather, it's perforated on the sides, it's heated as well, which is nice, and it has the same dark tangerine stitching inside the rim of the wheel as you would also get on the seats. Now, there's still some modern stuff in here. You have Ford's co-pilot system, as I was talking about before, and you also have heated seats, the heated steering wheel. You have all the basic amenities, but again, if you're looking for, more for your $50,000+ crossover, I don't know that this one's going to make you the happiest. Now, while I may have accused this thing of being a little more barren than most tech heads would really like, such as myself, I will still say that what Ford has done is simplified everything, but they've presented it in still a very nicely designed way. The steering wheel, aside from its thick rim, all the buttons are pretty evenly laid out. A lot of your Ford co-pilot controls over here on the left, things like your volume control, as well as the adjustments for the 6.5-inch digital display in your half analog, half digital gauge cluster. Those are over here on the right. Same thing with your Bluetooth, voice recognition, and everything else. That also gets paired with Ford's Sync 3. Now, I know Sync 4 is already out. It's in a few of the vehicles in today's day and age, so this one does feel a little bit behind the times, especially with such a small screen that you'll see here in a bit. But on top of that, there's really not a whole lot to distract someone from the job of driving. Everything is laid out in a way to where it's understandable, it's functional, it's easy to use. Like I said, barren, but it serves a purpose. Now, I know what you're thinking already. Just by looking around this cabin, there's one area I know most of you are screaming about right now, which is, what the heck is up with this tiny little infotainment screen? The screen in this is the same size as what you might find in a Toyota Corolla. It sounds like an insult, but at only 8 inches in size, this is the standard screen that you get in the Timberline. If you want to upgrade it, you can get a 10.1 inch screen. Still though, Sync 3 is not bad. We do have, you know, Bluetooth audio, phone. We have GPS navigation with a standard map where you can do, you know, 3D view, overhead view. You know, it does all the basic stuff, but it also has Android Auto, Apple CarPlay, so you can still use all of those things. But really, again, the display being so small, even things like using your 360 camera or just your ordinary backup camera can be a little bit of a hassle, especially if you're used to screens that are a little bit bigger. Maybe your vision isn't the best. So of course the smaller display can be a little bit of a hindrance. What's not a hindrance to at least my ears, however, is in this, we have a 12 speaker Bang & Olufsen sound system. As part of the options list on this thing, I haven't even tried it yet, so I am so excited to push that volume button and let's see what we get, shall we? Infinite power. And as much as someone like myself might enjoy sitting more in the driver's seat or maybe even in the passenger seat of one of these, I'm not gonna lie, it's actually not bad being in the back seat here either. To start with, I have a perfect view, full 360 degrees around me, so there is quite a lot better visibility in here than I was expecting. Speaking of visibility though, you notice there are no sunshades back here in either the second or the third row. Not necessarily something that I would say is bad, but I know other vehicles at this price point do give you things like that. But on the same token, you've got all-weather mats back here. The Timberline comes standard with a second row of captain's chairs, both of which are heated at the same time, which is always nice. And I even have a pretty decent amount of legroom. Now, even if I was to slouch way down and be a total slob back here, the rear of the seats are actually indented, so even someone at over 6 feet tall like I am could easily fit back here. Speaking of fun, I also love the cup holders up here in the door. They're not just down on the bottom, which there are still some down there. It's much easier to be able to grab your drink straight from right here at arm level, be able to do what you need to do, and it just feels a lot more comforting to be in the back of this Explorer versus, you know, being in something where you're kind of sitting either too low, sitting too high, or perhaps when your driver has the seat a good bit back, basically ending up with no leg room at all. So I'd say it's a big win being back here. Now, I don't really think it matters who you are. Just about nobody I've talked to has said, I want to sit in the third row of a mid-size crossover, because let's face it, you're either going to take away all the leg space of your second row passengers if you're over 6 feet tall like me and you actually want to sit in what, quite frankly, is one of the more firm seats I've felt in a small 3-row CUV, or you can put the second row seats all the way back and take away all of your leg room and basically look like you're curled up into a ball while you're sitting here. So is it the most accommodable? I would say no. I mean, there's still room for, you know, a child's sippy cup with these little cup holders in the back, and you have these little trays back here. But honestly, would I sit back in this third row? Only in an emergency and if I absolutely had to. And on that note, ladies and gentlemen, this now wraps up our review and drive of the 2023 Ford Explorer Timberline. And you know, to be honest with you, when I first heard that the boys and girls at the Big Blue Oval were bringing out an off-road version of their mid-size crossover mainstay, I was more than a little bit skeptical, but after spending some time with this thing, I totally understand why somebody would want one. It offers all the on and off-road prowess you could want, and you can still take the family into the middle of nowhere. However, at the same time, my feelings are a little bit mixed with things like the steeper price tag and also that sort of bare bones cabin. Those are the only two things that I really would say would be a reason for me to stay away from one of these. But I would love to spend more time with one and really put it through its off-road paces. But anyways, guys, if you enjoyed this video, perhaps you learned something about the Explorer today, please give this video a thumbs up. And also, while you're at it, hit the subscribe button down below, because trust me, I would love to do more stuff like this in the future. And I would especially love to combine forces with Legacy Ford here in Rosenberg, Texas again. Again, if you like this vehicle, or perhaps you want to check out what they have in stock, check out the links in the description box below, and you'll get all their contact information. And again, be sure to tell them that you saw it on the driveway. But anyways, guys, if you enjoyed the review, I will see you all next time. And until then, stay safe.